talk about Superman. That trailer was amazing. It was everything I ever could have wanted from the Superman trailer for this movie. But let's go back a little bit. It has been a very long time since we've had a good Superman movie. I know he appeared in the Justice League and the Joss Whedon Justice League. However, he started out that movie dead for some reason, and I don't know why. He was just dead, and then he came back, and it was terrible. And the whole movie was ass, but at least it was okay as a Justice League. I guess it was fine. Not really, no. It was bad. Both of them, bad. Bad movies. Trashed the whole thing. And they did. That's exactly what they did. It was so bad, they trashed the entire thing. Even the good parts, I would say. Although we're not 100% sure on that. Like, there's no confirmation on whether or not Margot Robbie will still be Harley Quinn, even though that was absolutely fantastic. I think everyone agrees that while Suicide Squad was kind of a shitty movie, even if it has some fun elements, I do think it's a bad movie. Just, it's like fun bad. We're not going to talk about Suicide Squad right now. Birds of Prey was a good movie, and Harley Quinn was fantastic in that movie. Margot Robbie did an incredible job. There was some problems with it. Again, we're not going to talk about that, but overall, I think everyone can agree that Margot Robbie was a perfect casting for Harley Quinn. But I don't think that's the only really good casting. Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, great. Like it. Sure, again, with the original Suicide Squad, it wasn't the best, but that was more of the movie being a problem. I think once he was in the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version, which is who also is making the Superman movie, if you didn't know somehow, I think with that brief scene that he's in the beginning of the movie, he really does do a lot better. I think it was actually pretty good. It's not perfect, but I think it was a good casting. I think if you hit that character into a more accurate Captain Boomerang, it could have been really good. And there's others. Basically everyone in the Suicide Squad worked for me. I think they were all pretty great. I'm not gonna lie, I think that might be the only real casting. I think Margot Robbie and like the Suicide Squad might be the only casting that worked for me. Zachary Levi, trash. The Rock as Black Adam, horrible. Actually, no. On the note of the Black Adam movie, outside of The Rock, I think most of the casting for that movie was pretty good. I don't know their names off the top of my head, but pretty much everyone in the Justice Society there was great. Hawkman, Dr. Fate Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate was great. I can't think of the other, the Green Tornado girl, I don't remember her name. And then, was it Captain Atom that was in there? Trying to think of the movie off the top of my head. Either way, I remember watching it, and the only parts I liked were the parts with the Justice Society in it. They were all fantastic. But the rest of that was not very good. And it's really weird that they started with Suicide Squad and then just went Justice League, and what the hell kind of start was that? Like, I get we're starting with Creature Commandos, technically, for the DCU now, but that's like a little mini, like a little cartoon TV show, and it's really good, don't get me wrong. I am loving it. G.I. Robot's episode was fantastic. Everyone's hyping up the Weasel episode, and I get it. It's great. I understand why they like it. I love it too. But I think the G.I. Robot episode kind of just got skipped over a little bit with the hype for the Superman trailer, with the hype for, season 4 being the Weasel episode. Everyone was talking about how great that episode is. And I think that is fair, but I think we kind of blew past another fantastic episode, that being the G.I. Robot stuff. I think the G.I. Robots episode was one of the best episodes of TV I've watched in years. It's at least for cartoons, it's really good. Also, G.I. Robot's just funny. I like G.I. Robot. But going back, the last time we had a solo Superman movie, so again, not counting these Justice League movies that are all the same movie, but two different movies, whatever, was 2006 with Superman Returns. And while I really liked Brendan Ruth's Superman, in fact, he came back in, I believe it was Arrow, it might have been like Supergirl or something, but in the Arrowverse, he came back to play a version of Superman. I think he was actually really good as Superman. I think that was a great casting. However, the movie was way too tied, like, literally just it was a sequel to Superman 4, despite that being, what, like 20 years earlier? The Superman movies that came out from the late 70s to the late 80s, over, like, what, 10-year period, of, Donner and all that stuff. But it was a direct sequel to Superman 4, which is not a good movie. I'm not going to lie to you. Not a good movie. But it's a direct sequel to that, but it was 19, 20 years later. Very long gap. Almost no real connective tissue, just them saying it and the storyline kind of picking up, I guess. But honestly, it wasn't very good. It wasn't a good movie. The last time we had a good solo Superman movie, I'm going to say Superman 3. Now, that might not be everyone's opinion. I think most people think Superman 2 was the last good one. And then Superman 3 is just, like, okay. And then 4, I think everyone just agrees, is not very good. But I really liked Superman 3. I grew up with Superman 3. It's the first Superman movie I ever watched, actually. And I fell in love with the Christopher Reeves version of the character, both from that movie. And actually, Richard Pryor, he's weirdly in the movie as, like, a sort of antagonist. And he's hilarious in the movie. It's not really a Richard Pryor movie, but he's funny in the movie, and it's fun. And again, that being the first one I watched, I have a soft spot for it. I really love the movie, but I can understand if you really think that, like, Superman 2 was the last good one. But Superman 2 came out in 1980. By the time this Superman releases, James Gunn's Superman releases, it'll be 45 years since we've had a good Superman movie. That is a long time. If you just go from Brendan Ruth Superman, we're 20 years past that now. So it's been just a huge amount of time since we've gotten a Superman movie. And Superman is probably my favorite comic book character. It's actually one of the only comic book characters I have a tattoo of. It's a shitty tattoo, but I have it. I don't know. I kind of just really wish we had gotten more, especially with all the, like, the Batman and stuff we get. We get a ton of, like, Batman stuff. And Batman's great, don't get me wrong, but I really wish we had gotten another Superman. There probably should have been a Superman movie that came out before the Justice League. Just at least set up while he's dead, right? It's weird. But regardless, just not very good. It's been bad for Superman lately, but not all bad. Superman comics have been fantastic. I know not everyone likes it, but I really like the New 52 stuff, although as I've read more comics, I've kind of grown less fond of it. But I also, again, started kind of reading comics with the New 52. I'd read before, but I don't want to go down my whole comic history here. We got to get more Superman out here. The character's so good. He's so perfect. I love him. The Superman TV show, My Adventures with Superman, fantastic show. Just absolutely great show. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it. If you even, like, tangentially like superheroes, even if you just like the MCU or whatever, and you've never picked up a comic in your life, watch My Adventures with Superman. It is amazing. The same thing could be said for, like, Superman the Animated Series or Justice League. These are all very good adaptations. Young Justice is a pretty good show. I don't really remember how much Superman's in it. But what I've seen was really good. I know Superboy was really cool in that. But I don't really remember how well Superman was portrayed. But considering the quality of the rest of the show, I'm going to say it's probably pretty good for Superman too. But overall, Superman media has been really good. We just haven't had a good live-action movie. But for some reason, the general public just doesn't like Superman or doesn't realize that they like Superman or why they like Superman. Because they just assume he's, like, overpowered and there can't be any conflict. So, how this relates to the trailer. So, we open the trailer with Superman just crash landing into the snow. I'm going to guess it's by the Fortress of Solitude. That seems to be something that they're definitely adding to this. Which, again, something we haven't seen in a very long time. And I just love the wilder side of Superman. We're going to stay on track this time, I promise. He crashes into the snow, and he's beaten to hell. You can see bruising all down his neck, his face. And I think that's a perfect place to open this Superman trailer. And specifically, this Superman trailer. or teaser trailer, I guess. And the reason is a couple things, actually. One, like I said, people think Superman is this all-powerful, over-the-top, like, just, he can beat anyone. There's no challenge to his fighting. And while that's partially true, he does get his ass kicked a lot, because it's Superman, and if you know Superman, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's not just going to go out and just rip somebody's head off. That's not what he's about. He is trying to be, like, a force of good, and I get that sounds kind of lame, and you kind of just have to go with it, but he's not just going to go out there and, like, rip someone to pieces. He could do that. Every time there's a robber, he could just snap their neck and call it a day. But he's not going to. So most of his fights are less about what his opponent is doing to him, and more that he's holding back to not kill everybody. And he does that, and he does sometimes get his ass kicked because of it, because he's never going to go all out against somebody because he doesn't want to hurt people. Even the criminals that he's fighting, he's not trying to hurt them. And I think that is important, because that's what you should be doing. If your job is to stop crime, you're not the executioner, which you're not there to cause more harm. You're supposed to be stopping the harm. So if every time there's a crime he just comes up and brutally murders them, that's not helpful to anybody. That's not what he's doing. He wouldn't be seen as a force of good. He would be seen as another criminal, and that's not what he wants. So to say that his fights have no weight, I think that's incorrect. His fights have a lot of weight, but it's because he's holding himself back and he doesn't want to hurt people. But beyond that, I don't even think that that's the interesting part of Superman. I think that's what makes his fights more interesting, but I don't think that's what the point of Superman is. Superman, he has all that strength, but that's kind of like to show like he could do whatever he wanted. But what he chooses to do is be the better person. He chooses to be a force for good and go out of his way to help people and to solve problems non-violently. And I think that's where you're going to get more character, more development, more story out of Superman. Yes, there can be, and you'll see it later in the trailer, a big kaiju fight. And that's fun, that's good, that's what we want. But I think on a deeper level, the story shouldn't be about, like, this big climactic fight at the end. I don't think we need that in a Superman movie. I think Superman really ending the fight by just talking to his opponent and, you know, working through it. Maybe not necessarily talking, but kind of just showing a kindness, and that being how he stops the crime would be more towards Superman. My point here is him coming and crashing into the snow, showing he's got the shit just beat out of him, opens with that idea that Superman is not infallible, even in strength. That's not his point. That's not what he's there for. He is incredibly strong, but he's not always just going to run through everybody and beat the shit out of them. So that's changing one public perception of Superman just with the opening. You know that you're not going to go in and see him just attacking everybody. He is going to get his ass kicked. But also, it's kind of a good metaphor for how Superman is in the public eye right now as well, as he has a bottomed out public opinion. People hate on Superman. People don't think the Superman movie is going to do very well. People remember the past incarnations of Superman as either incredibly boring with the old, the old 70s and 80s stuff, or the more modern stuff, again, where he just, like, showed up from the dead and, like, nobody liked that shit. So the public perception of Superman is just really low right now. And I think him coming in just beaten to hell really shows that. It's kind of a good open, like, this is how Superman is starting this movie, but by the end of it, you're gonna love this guy. And they immediately follow that with some pictures of Clark Kent, who looks really good, some pictures of the Daily Planet. Everyone looks good. We'll get back to them in a second. But they immediately follow this scene with the next scene of him calling, him just whistling. And who should come but Krypto the Super Dog, and he is so fucking cute. He's so goddamn cute. I love him. You see him barreling through the snow, big, plume coming out at him, behind him. And he runs, and he's just kind of, hopping around Superman. I'm a big pet person. I love animals. I love pets. So for me, this is working perfectly. And it's the same thing James Gunn did with Guardians 3. And really, you could say all the Guardians movies. Just Rocket being there, and he's an asshole, but he's a cute asshole. So it kind of works in that same way. But specifically Guardians 3, where you see Baby Rocket, and you see all his friends, and it's a traumatic story, but it is really good. It's really effective. And he's doing it again right here. Just Krypto is so adorable. And the fact that James Gunn, you may have seen, James Gunn wrote, I believe it was on Twitter, it might have been an article, and he just kind of posted it to Twitter, but he based Krypto the Superdog on, or at least this incarnation of him, on a rescue dog that he had. And as a pet owner, I favor rescues because, one, I don't want to pay people to breed animals. I think that's horrendous. But more importantly, these are pets that are there. They're loving creatures that need a home. Personally, I have 4 cats. I wish I could have a dog. I really do. I would love a dog. I just love pets. I do have a turtle as well. But we're gonna stick to the cats for this one. I have 4 cats, and all 4 of them are rescues to some degree. We have Minnie, who when I was working at a physical therapy office, my boss at the time kind of found her, the kittens outside. It was a cat. They were kittens from a cat that used to roam his neighborhood, and the cat had got hit by a car, and the kittens were found underneath his wooden step area. And he brought them all in, and I think there was 4 or 5 kittens that he had, and all of them got scooped up and taken. People that came into the area, one of our other employees took one, and a couple of the patients took one. But most of the cats were quiet and fairly good, and you could pick them up and touch and play with them and stuff. And obviously, that is what is going to get people to take them. I used to work at an animal shelter, Paul's, here in Philadelphia, and it's really hard to get people to accept that these animals in the shelters live in cages and are not happy, and it's we're doing the best we can in the shelter with the funding we had. However, it's not ideal, and the way they act in the shelter is often not how they act, a month or 2 into your house. When they're open and being loved and seen every day, and it is a lot different. So this cat that I got, Meanie, was named Meanie by the office, and she just kept the name because she was very violent, attacking everyone who came even close to her. The first week I had her, I could barely touch her or feed her, but we made it work, and she's here and healthy now. So, but with that being said, nobody wanted her. We spent the entire day trying to get someone to take this cat, and nobody wanted her. And his only other option was to take her to an animal shelter. And in Philly, a lot of animal shelters are almost always filled, and a cat like that comes in that's aggressive and just an aggressive cat like that, 9 times out of 10 they're just gonna put her down. And I didn't want to see that happen, so I took her myself and I just kept her. Gotten bitched at by my parents a lot for it. They were not really looking to pick up another animal, and she's been a great since. She still kind of fits her name. She is kind of meanie. She is a little moody, but she's a loving cat, and she's been a great cat. At this point I've had her for almost 15 years. It's 12 years or something. I forget. I've had her for a very long time now, and she's been wonderful every step of the way. The cat I got after that, me and my wife found at a game store we used to shop at. They had found the kittens again, just kind of in a barn, I think, or on the side of a road. Something, I forget exactly what the story was. It was something like that though. They had a couple. They had two. They were being taken care of, but they still did need to find a home for them. Wanting another cat, and at this point, the cat Meanie was still younger, so we got another one. That one is Lucy. Her full name is Lucifer. And she's not very nice at all. Again, the name fits pretty well. She's kind of mean, but we love her anyway, or at least I do. At least I do. The next one we got is Yukina. This is my wife's cat. She was found in a field, so we just have her now. Yeah, my wife saw more cats online that from someone I think it's the same people she'd gotten Yukina from, but I'm not positive. They found cats in, I think it was a McDonald's or like a Chick-fil-A or something dumpster, and most of the kittens were dead. I think there was more than one alive, but I think I know a few of them were dead. They were beaten and thrown out because people. That's how they treat animals, and they don't want, kittens or they leave cats outside, which is not good, and they get pregnant, and then they have these kittens that nobody wants, and it's like, your cat shouldn't be outside, but like, fix your fucking cat. Anyway, so we have Maka. This is my boy. This is the best one. He's my favorite. You shouldn't have favorites, but he's my favorite. He is the sweetest cat in the world. His eyes are like rolling around in his head a little bit because he was from the abuse, but he was one of the ones that survived. They found him in a dumpster, and of course we took him. He's the best. He is the best. But again, all for rescues, because that's what you do. And James Gunn based Krypto on his rescue dog, who he said tore up his house, tore up his shoes, his carpet, but he just kept with him, because that's what you do when you get a rescue. You have to try. These aren't, it's not something you pick up on a whim and then just, it's too much and dump it back off. You took responsibility for this living creature, and you need to make it, you need to work at it to make sure that it's a happy and healthy creature, and, at least try. Do your best. And James Gunn did that, and he based Krypto on it. It's so sweet. It's so cute. I love it. It pulls at the heartstrings. I love this. Anyway, so that's Krypto, and I don't think we've never had a live action Krypto, at least not in theaters or anything like that. I'm so excited for this. He looks perfect, so cute. Moving on with the trailer though, we get a lot of like little glimpses of the Daily Planet. We get to see Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. We get to see, I forget who's playing Jimmy Olsen right now, but we get to see Jimmy Olsen again. I don't remember the last time Jimmy Olsen was in a movie, and he's Superman's best. It's literally Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. They are like best friends. Just a lot of supporting cast. There's some smaller characters too, just some Daily Planet regulars. That's, again, really nice to see. It's really nice to see this being brought back. Then we get Guy Gardner, Green Lantern Guy Gardner, and Nathan Fillion, what is just absolute goofy ass. Oh, he looks so stupid, but it's perfect. Like, you gotta understand, cool is only cool in the moment. In 5 years, in 2 years, it's not going to be cool anymore. But what will always be fun and what will always be good is the characters the way they were meant to be. And I understand the costumes, we'll get to that in a second, but just the look of Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner with that stupid-ass bowl cut, that weird-ass smile, the kind of the swagger, the attitude that he has when he just, throws up the ring to block out the crowd. It's perfect. It is truly perfect. I'm not thrilled that someone as old as Nathan Fillion is playing Guy Gardner, just because while he is a little bit older, I believe he's closer to Hal Jordan's age than like some of the younger Green Lanterns. I don't think he's meant to be like in his 50s or anything, but it's fine. Maybe they're just playing him as like a mid 40s, and Nathan Fillion's age is what it is. But he looks perfect. It looks so good for this. I have absolute confidence that Nathan Fillion's going to pull this off. We have Hawkgirl, played by Isabella Marced, who's also going to be Tina in The Last of Us Season 2, which love that game, love that show, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, so she's going to be Hawkgirl. Again, I don't know a ton about Hawkgirl. Their history, comic history, is one of those characters that is, I want to say, why people think comics are as hard as they are. Incredibly complicated history, because there's like 3 different versions or something. I know it has to do with the Nth Metal. It's a lot. It really is. But I'm assuming they're going to kind of strip a lot of that down and just kind of give a clean history for her, if they even get that far. I don't think we're going to get a ton of Hawkgirl information in this movie. I assume they're just playing supporting-ish roles. Like, I'm not expecting to see how Guy Gardner got his ring. That's not really what this movie is about. So I don't think we're going to need to learn her history. But Hawkgirl, really cool character. If you've watched the Justice League animated series, she's in that. And it's good. Again, I really like the series. I don't think the storylines in there really fit the actual comic Hawkgirl, but it's fine because it's good, and that's all that really matters. While I am a fan of comic book accuracy, I also think that whatever makes for a better art that you're doing, that'd be a movie, a game, a TV show, whatever, if the changes don't disrupt the core of the character, but make it better, or make what you're doing better, it's fine. And I think she has such a complicated history that just kind of streamlining it into something simple works fine. So perfectly happy with whatever they decide to do here. But again, I really like the character of Hawkgirl, at least what I know in the Justice League show. And also in Brightest Day, a comic from, I want to say like 2011, 2012-ish. I could be off a year in either direction, I'm not positive. But I think her character in that was pretty good as well. It's been about a decade since I read it. We also get to see Eddie Gaethetti as Mr. Terrific. And again, not super well versed in Mr. Terrific's history. I'm not going to claim that I am. However, like I said, I started reading comics during the New 52. One of the 52 comics launched was Mr. Terrific. And I picked it up because I picked up the entire 52 issue line at that time. I picked up everything they had because this was my first foray really into comics, and I've always been more of a DC guy. So I was reading Spider-Man and a couple Marvel titles. I forget exactly which ones. I was cherry-picking my Marvel stuff. DC has always been what I loved more, and I picked up the entire 52 line. At least for the first couple weeks. Well, couple rotations. If you buy comics, you know that like every week they do different ones, but every month you'll get, the same. It cycles in over a 4-week period. About 3 or 4 months, I forget how long it was exactly, I picked up the entire line. All 52 issues. Wanted to read everything and really see what characters I like. Because I knew what characters I liked from other media, but I didn't know what characters I was going to like in comics. But one of them was Mr. Terrific. And the comic was so good. It was so good. I think I made it, I want to say 8 issues. I believe it got canceled after those 8 issues, or maybe it was 16. But I think I made it about 8 issues in. At that point, I lost my job. This is my first job out of high school. I was unable to afford comics as much, so I, stopped buying them. But I think I made it about 8 issues in, and it was great. Loved it. Really should go back and reread that. But, so what I'm saying here is, I don't have a wealth of knowledge about Mr. Terrific and his comic history, but what I do know I really like. So when I heard he was going to be in this movie, and then when I now seeing the costume and everything, I did see the leaked set footage of the costume, but regardless, he looks so good. It's so good. I think the casting was perfect. I think the costume design here is exactly what you want. Of these not Superman heroes that are in the movie, I think he's so far the only one with a good costume. But again, we're going to talk about that in a second. Next up, we get to see Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho, Rex Mason? I want to say his name's Rex Mason. Rex Mason. I know his name's Rex. Anyway, I don't know shit about Metamorpho. Not going to pretend I do. It looks really cool, though. I've seen the character in things, and I've seen him, like, around. But I don't know enough about him to have a real opinion on his character. But he looks really cool. The textured... And apparently this is all practical effects. The textured look, like the swirls and lines, looks so good. Really excited for that. So yeah, the cast looks great. We also get Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and he looks good bald. I think it's a look for him. Nicholas Holt's actually a pretty good actor if you've ever seen... obviously he's Beast in X-Men, but he's in a few other things. Trying to think off the top of my head, but the first thing that comes to mind for some reason is Equals, which he was good. But again, regardless, good actor. I think he's going to do really well here. His face just at the very least, in terms of casting, I think James Gunn nailed the look of these characters. I don't know about I'm not going to pretend that I know he made the characters, feel like the characters. But he nailed the look. And I trust James Gunn that he's going to do a good job and that the movie's going to be great and that the character's going to act, accordingly and everything's going to be good. Just based on his track record, I don't think he's got a bad movie in his filmography. With that being said, I'm willing to, I'm going to be realistic here. I've not seen the movie, obviously. So maybe it's, maybe he did fuck up the characters, but he made them look good. I don't know. There's no real argument there. They all look perfect. And Nicholas Hoult just really is giving Lex Luthor in all of these shots. Especially the angry, kind of beaten face. Looks so good. It reminds me of a comic panel. I cannot think of it to save my life, but I can see it in my head. There's the one where he's holding the gun, and he's got the ring, the little pinky ring, and it's oozing Lex Luthor. It really just is. I don't know how to, because he's not saying anything. But he's just there. His presence is just giving Lex Luthor. I love it. Looks good. So we get a good look out of him, and honestly, everyone looks great. Now for the costumes. We're going to talk about that real quick. The costumes do not look good. None of them. Superman looks perfect. We can start there, I guess. We'll start with the positive. Superman looks absolutely perfect. I don't love the collar, but also I'm not as opposed to it as I think a lot of other people are. Again, the collar was something that kind of came about in the New 52, so I'm just used to it. And I kind of like that it has elements of the New 52, elements of more modern Superman. However, you're getting the trunks, which I think are perfect. I think that is emblematic of who Superman is. I think it is a key feature of his identity. Taking away the trunks, taking away that little bit of goofiness to him, kind of invalidates the character, in my opinion. Because he needs to look a little goofy. He is incredibly strong, just an alien. I get he looks human, but he's still an alien. He's still incredibly powerful. And in anyone's mind, he would be terrifying. So to balance that, you need him to kind of look a little goofy. He needs to be kind of making fun of himself at least a little bit. And I think the trunks really represent that. Like, he's got the cape, and he's got the bright colors, and he's got these goofy little trunks on, and he just looks a little goofy. But I think that is imperative to who he is as a character. And I think without that, you lose a lot of easy winnability here with, like, the crowd. Like, the people will like him, in universe, I mean. People will like him more because, like, he's doing all these great things, but he's not scary. Like, he's fighting this giant kaiju monster and just getting ballooned through buildings. But I don't fear him, because he looks normal. He looks like us, but also he's kind of looks like a wrestler, kind of looks like a clown. And I think that balance brings a lot to Superman's character. So I think it's really important that they get that look right, and I think they did. Also, David Corenswet just looks so good. So good as Superman. And he looks really good as Clark Kent. I don't want to, he's got this little slouching going on. He's got this long stride. It makes it look, he just looks kind of disheveled, kind of falling apart. He looks sloppy. and his hair, his hair is kind of messy. He's got this little curly afro going on. It really is just a look for him, and it is good. It's perfect for Clark because he doesn't feel imposing. He's big, like he's naturally a large size. Now he looks like he's large, but in this way, the ill-fitting suit with his slouch, it looks less like he's a brick wall and more like he's just kind of like, out of shape and just kind of like slothing around, And again, that is a core part of Clark's character. If Clark Kent looks like a fucking model, everyone's gonna know he's Superman. That's how you know. Like that, people think it's the glasses. It's not the glasses. It's not the glasses, it's not the hair. It's the character. It's how he acts, how he looks beyond the superficial. Like, Superman stands up straight. He's big, he's muscular, he's got the suit on that's, not necessarily form-fitting, but you can see that he is, he's built, he's built like he's just huge. He is what you expect to see from a hero. And then you look at Clark and it's like, yeah, they kind of have a similar face, but beyond that, they look entirely different. Also, have you ever seen someone take their glasses off? They look like new people. We say this all the time. You look so much different without your glasses because they shape your face in a certain way. So when Clark wears the glasses, yes, that helps the disguise, but that's not the real disguise. That's kind of like a surface layer, kind of obscuring the face just a little bit. But realistically, or in reality, the true costume comes out in the way Clark acts versus how he acts as Superman. So I think nailing that was important, but I think he did really good on both sides. I think Clark Kent looks good. He feels like kind of a loser, and that's what you need. But also, Superman looks really good, and even just beaten down into the ground like that, he still looks imposing. He still looks strong, and he still looks good in that way as well. And I think this contrast works really well, and I think Cornsweet is pulling it off incredibly. As for the other heroes, we already talked about Mr. Terrific. I think his costume looks really good. But everyone else, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, we haven't seen the Engineer yet, so I'm going to reserve any opinions on that one. But Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl, the costumes look horrible. But they look like corporate costumes, like they all look the same. And I think the idea is that they are corporate costumes. They kind of got that logo on it. I can't think off the top of my head who the logo is. I've known people have figured it out. They already know who it is. I just don't know off the top of my head. But they got the logo kind of on the chest, and it's clear to me that their costumes aren't their costumes. Like, he's done such a good job replicating comic accurate-ish costumes throughout this movie and throughout the movie. And in Suicide Squad. He didn't do it so much in the Marvel movies, but Marvel didn't really do comic accurate costumes to begin with. Like, they're kind of tweaked and modernized, and they have their own look, so we're going to ignore that for a moment. But I think he can and knows when to do comic accurate costumes, and I think this is an intentional choice not to do them for the story. And I don't want to say it in a they're going to earn their costume kind of way. We'll get to that more, what I think of that, or why that is in the end of the video, where I kind of just give my thoughts on what I think this movie is going to be about. But I think the key here is that they're working for someone, and that's why they wear this costume. That's why they all look the same. I think Mr. Terrific's involved as well. I've obviously seen with them, but I think they're all kind of working for someone along with the Engineer. But I think that Mr. Terrific's costume works really well for him, and it just happens that his works really well, whereas everyone else's just doesn't. But I think it's intentionally not working. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, it just looks like these two characters just have shitty costumes, and if that's it, that sucks. It does. I don't want to see them in shitty costumes. But to that end, I don't think they're actually shitty costumes. They just don't look like the comic book characters. There's a lot we can go into there, but I think we're going to Lord Tech. They're Lord Tech costumes. I don't think that's what we're going to stick with, though. I think this is temporary. that brings us to the next character, someone we didn't see. And that's Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord is in this movie. We know Sean Gunn was cast as Maxwell Lord, but we didn't see him. We didn't see him at all. And to be fair, we don't know that he's like a major character in this movie. He could just be like their boss. I think he is their boss, but he could just be their boss. Like you see him for like 1 or 2 scenes and he's gone. While Maxwell Lord is a somewhat important character, I'm not huge into his knowledge. I do know he's a little more Wonder Woman-y, but I think he's just kind of a general DC businessman character who's a little bit more important, but he's not like a main threat or anything. Again, this is just surface level understanding. I'm not super well versed in Maxwell Lord's lore or anything. You're gonna hear that a lot because I'm not a comic lore guy. I just read comic books that look good or that I get recommended. I don't tend to read in order. I don't tend to follow storylines, massively or anything like that. And I don't read everything, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. I am not a comic book YouTuber if you want that. If you want like a real in-depth breakdown and like comic lore and stuff, obviously there's the New Rockstars, but they're like a 3 million sub channel with like 3 channels. They're great, don't get me wrong, I highly recommend their videos, but when I promote somebody that I watch, I like to pick, the smaller creators. They're much larger than I am, so I don't know who I'm calling smaller, but I don't like to, New Rockstars. Fuck them for right now. No, don't fuck them. They're cool, but, ignore them for right now. Let's focus on the up-and-coming channels. People that I think you should watch. Boba Talks is great. He's done a lot of DC content. He's really good. He's fun. Troy Oboyo, just all around good stuff. Love pretty much all of his videos. He does like these fanboy pre-writes and rewrites, and a lot of fun. Seems like a really good, just generally a good guy, but also his videos are really good. Go Read Comics. I think she was actually reposted by James Gunn as well, so like, gotta recommend that one. She's really good. The videos are good, but she does a little bit more comic lore too. And again, not a comic lore person, so that's a great place to go for comic lore. So yeah, highly recommend all 3 channels. They'll give you more of a in-depth breakdown. I just want to talk about my opinions here. But anyway, Maxwell Lord. We know he's supposed to be in the movie, but we didn't see him at all. We also know that Millie Alcock, whatever her name is, from not Game of Thrones, from House of Dragons, this lady here, she is supposed to play Supergirl, and she should also be in this movie. Did not see her, which is fine. This is a teaser trailer. It was only like 2 minutes. We get a quick view of some of the characters, but we didn't. We're not going to see everything. So we got time. We'll see them both eventually, I'm sure. And if not, that's fine. I'll wait. I'll happily wait to see. I'll wait to see Supergirl in the movie too, because like that's fine. That'd be a really cool surprise actually to see what she looks like in the movie, not in the trailer. But honestly, I could really care less what Maxwell Lord looks like. I like Sean Gunn. Guy's hilarious. Does great work. Don't really care what he looks like as Maxwell Lord. I'm sure he's gonna look fine. But yeah, so we didn't see those 2. But overall, the trailer looks just so good. So good. And we're going to stop there for right now. Everything past this point is going to be a little bit more in-depth. Again, not super in-depth, but a little bit more like picking at the trailer. And I don't really want to spoil anything because I have seen some leaks and stuff. I don't want to spoil that for anybody. So at this point, if you don't care like what the leaks are, feel free to watch more. But if you do, if you're like, I want to see just what the trailers offer. I don't want to pick it apart because I know that's going to be because of toy leaks or something. Hint, hint, wink, winks. I understand. So this is your only spoiler warning. Let's go. So bursting into the baseball stadium fighting Superman is, I believe, Ultraman. We've seen he's got like kind of U shape. He's just wearing all black. It's not really Ultraman from the comics, but I think they're just calling him Ultraman. And if you look real close at the trailer breakdown, that like at the trailer in the scene where Superman's kind of punching through the glass, you can see Metamorpho on both sides of him. My assumption here is that Luthor and probably Maxwell Lord to some degree are kind of working together, or at the very least, Luthor is kind of is using Metamorpho to kind of clone Superman, and Maxwell Lord and we're going to call them the Terrifics for right now, even though that's not really what they are. They're close enough. What they are doing is they're like kind of helping Superman, like the heroes are kind of helping Superman, but maybe Maxwell Lord's involved with Lex somehow. Not really sure how that's going to work entirely. Here's how I think this is going to play out. We know this is Ultraman because we've seen that that's who this is. In various leaks, we've seen that this is Ultraman. So we pretty much know that that's who this is. We also already knew that Superman was going to be fighting a kaiju, but we saw the kaiju in here, so like that's not really a spoiler. My thoughts, just a grand scheme for the movie. It's going to be something along the lines of the Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl are all working for, maybe Supergirl even, are all working for Maxwell Lord as like a Terrifics or Justice Society-esque team. That's who they are going to be. Maybe the Engineer's involved in that and not Supergirl. Maybe it's Supergirl. Maybe just neither of them are involved. Who knows? But to some degree, they're working for Maxwell Lord as like a superhero team that also is in Metropolis. On the other end, we're going to have Lex Luthor, and he's probably going to have Metamorpho. I think the Engineer is with Lex. That doesn't mean she's not on the Terrifics-esque team, but the scene where Lex is kind of walking forward into what I'm going to say is the Fortress of Solitude. I think he's getting into the Fortress of Solitude. I think that's why the robot got broken. I believe this is the robot from All-Star Superman. I think Lex is breaking into the Fortress of Solitude, and he's going to destroy the robot. I think the Engineer is like a blink and you missed it scene next to him. So if Lex in the middle, I think she's right here. And you can also sort of see her on the LexCorp bridge. Like you can see the actress playing the Engineer. Maria Gabriela de Friera. Maria Gabriela. I'm not going to butcher the rest of her name. Sorry. But she's playing the Engineer. You can kind of see her on the bridge. I think I've heard. I'm not seeing it, but I'm also kind of blind. Actually, I have my glasses right here so I can see the camera when I set up for filming, because I can't even see the screen on my camera from the distance that it is. But I don't like wearing my glasses. Anyway, apparently you can see her on the bridge, but I think right next to her is also the Engineer. Right next to Lex is also the Engineer. So I think the Engineer is on Lex's side here. I think she's working with Lex and using Metamorpho to clone Superman to make a quote-unquote better Superman controlled by Lex. And that, if you know Lex Luthor, he is very, he's better than Superman. He has to be better than Superman. He's the savior of humanity. He's going to be the one to do it. Why does everyone love Superman? He's not even from this planet kind of guy. You probably get the feel of what that's like. So I feel like that's what they're doing. That's where Ultraman's going to come in. My thoughts on the overall plot here are that Lex is breaking into the Fortress of Solitude. He's trying to kill Superman with Ultraman. That's why Ultraman and Superman are fighting there. Just a general, Lex v Superman. I think the Maxwell Lord team is either helping with that, even if it unintentionally, because maybe Maxwell Lord is using them to kind of make Superman look bad or look worse. We don't need Superman, an alien. We have these American heroes playing into some themes here. Or, at the very least, we don't need Superman. We have these Earthling heroes. I think the themes still work there. But I don't think they realize that that's what's going on. I think they're just doing, quote-unquote, doing their job. They're just, I'm trying to help people too. We have no issue with Superman directly, but our boss is trying to force this conflict. Even if it's just behind the scenes. He's kind of sending them in to make Superman not look bad, but look unneeded, while Lex is actively trying to make Superman look bad. And I think that's kind of the layers there. And again, maybe that kind of takes away, I think maybe Supergirl isn't working with them necessarily, but I also think that that could be why the Engineer is part of the Terrifics team, despite also working for Luthor. Like, she's kind of the mole, working on both sides here. But anyway, so I think that that's kind of the general setup, and I think the plan here is to make Superman look bad, and Lex is going to try to do that with Ultraman. I think that's the main, antagonist, main problem here. I have no predictions for the big orb in the sky when he's putting his boots on. I got nothing. I don't know who that is. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. I'm sure someone much smarter than me knows, but I don't. The only other prediction I have is that by the end of the movie, the Terrifics are going to figure out that their boss is also involved in this and taking the taking down of Superman, and they don't want that. I think they're going to realize we like Superman. We don't want to be involved in taking down Superman and turn on him. And I think that's where Guy Gardner's going to get a more Green Lantern suit. Even if we don't see it in this movie, I think the next time we see him, he'll have a more Green Lantern themed suit. I think Hawkgirl will go to her more comic accurate suit. I do think Mr. Terrific's suit will change, but I think his will be much less noticeable because he does already kind of just really look like Mr. Terrific. But I think overall that's kind of the story pacing we're going to get. Superman fights a kaiju. I think we're going to open with like Superman versus kaiju. And then that's going to cause some problems. I think the Terrific-esque team here is going to come in and actually be the ones to defeat the kaiju. And then Superman's going to be kind of beaten and travel and just fly away, go back to the Fortress of Solitude, like, what did I do? That's where Krypto comes in. I think from there, the Engineer and Superman probably got some DNA from his blood. From that, maybe they, in some way from that, I think they're going to use that with Metamorpho to make an Ultraman, and then while Ultraman is fighting Superman at the baseball stadium, that's when Lex and the Engineer are going to go and kind of break into the Fortress of Solitude. Maybe because they have his blood, maybe there's more than one Ultraman-like character, or maybe Metamorpho just can, because he can change his body, maybe he's just able to break in, because he has Superman's DNA. I don't think that's really a power of Metamorpho, but I can see it kind of being changed to make that work. And then at some point from there, I think the Terrific-esque team is going to figure out that they're on the bad side, quote unquote, and that's what they're going to stop what they're doing and go help Superman defeat the Ultraman clone. Maybe the Ultraman clone just starts to degrade, and that's how they beat him, and then turns into something like Bizarro. I've heard Bizarro's in the movie, so maybe that's where we get Bizarro. Ultraman just kind of becomes Bizarro, or maybe there is a different Ultraman clone that is Bizarro. Something along those lines. But I think that's kind of the general pace and the general plot of the movie. Superman is a good guy trying to do good. The Terrific-esque characters are just trying to do good as well, but their boss is kind of doing that just to make Superman look unneeded, while Lex is kind of sweeping his legs out from under him and making him look bad. So now he looks bad and looks unneeded, so people turn on him. While Lex also tries to create an Ultraman clone of him to prove that he's the better and he's the savior of humanity here. And I think the overall movie is going to wrap up with, no, Superman's a good person, he's here to help us, and we do need him, or at the very least, there's no reason we don't. He's from Earth. Yes, he's an alien, but he is from, Smallville. He's from here. He's one of us. And, I think the other superheroes like him enough where they're all kind of going to form together. Maybe this is how we get like a Justice Society or something, or a Justice League International. That could be cool. Anyway, that's my thoughts here. Thanks for watching. This has been very rambly. It's been a long time since I made a video. I'll tell you why eventually, maybe. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that, if I actually want to make a video on that. We'll figure that out later. But I am trying to get back into making videos. I know it's been a rough 2 years since I made anything, but there's only 200 of you. There's 150 of you, so I don't think he's actually care that much. Thanks for watching anyway. Bye.